everybody, and welcome to OutKick Bets, the show on this Monday, the 10th of January. It is a big day around here. It is Black Monday. It is the national championship. By the way, I am your host, Kayla Canarum, and joining me over there in Alabama is my good buddy and friend, Arky Shea. Arky, we've got a jam-packed show today. How are you feeling?
I could not be better. Actually, I could. There are two teams I'm not the biggest fan of the world playing for the national championship, but still a very good place to make some money on them tonight because some people aren't giving proper credit where it's due, and we're going to find that loophole in a minute.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to kick things off with, of course, Black Monday, the dreaded Black Monday for all of those coaches who are on the bubble. We now know who is in, who is out, and it's all happening. So first up, we've got Vic Fangio. He is out in Denver after 3 seasons. He had 0 playoff appearances, went 19-30 overall. Mike Zimmer out for the Vikings after 8 seasons, 3 playoff appearances with a 74-59-1 record. We've also got Matt Nagy, who was rumored to be out all season long for the Bears in Chicago. He was there for 4 seasons, made 1 playoff appearance, and had a 34-31 overall record. Brian Flores out in Miami after 3 seasons, making 0 playoff appearances with a 24-25 record, despite coming out on top yesterday. Bears GM Ryan Pace, he's been there since 2015. He is out. Vikings GM Rick Spielman out as well. He's been with the team since 2006. Arky, I think the one that sticks out to me the most here is Brian Flores. Yes, they started off 1-7, but they turned it around going 8-7, finishing the year with a win over the Pats yesterday to make it 9-8. We're not going to give the guy a little more time in Miami. What are your overall thoughts on all of these firings?
Well, I'll tell you, Brian Flores is an interesting case just because he started the season 1-7 and then got the team back into, just a couple of weeks ago, a shot at the playoffs. Right. You could also argue they shouldn't have been 1-7 to start the season. That could probably help his case even more.
Yeah.
But the biggest noise I heard this entire morning was the city of Chicago. Did you hear the joy, the eruption of happiness from the Windy City? They were so happy. Matt Nagy has been a thorn in their side. He's been a guy that has basically said, Justin Fields, Mushkin Fields. We're not playing that guy until very late in the season. And Ryan Pace, the GM, who has not been the best at roster management so far, he's being out too. So the Bears get a fresh start, and we kind of sort of know who they would want to be their head coach if they got their first druthers.
And that would be?
Well, Jim Harbaugh, baby. Jim Harbaugh is the guy that they would want. I mean, there's connections to the city, obviously, former player there. And also, when he's in the NFL, even though it's kind of short-term, he kind of roasts people the wrong way, eventually, he's a proven winner. He's an absolute proven winner. And if you're Jim Harbaugh, if you want to make the jump to the NFL, pretty good defense, a nice young quarterback, a couple of good offensive players you can start to build around, that's not the worst place in the world to start if you're Jim Harbaugh.
That's true. So what? He beats Ohio State and he's just done with college football. I've always said I don't love college coaches going to the NFL, but he started in the NFL. So this would be okay with me if he wanted to join his brother again in the NFL. He's also been rumored to be talking to the Raiders, already shot down for the job in Miami. Where do you think he'll end up? Do you think it'll be the Bears?
If I were to lean right now, it would be the Bears. But I would tell you this: I thought it was funny that the owner of the Dolphins, Stephen Ross, this morning said that I don't want to be the guy that takes Jim Harbaugh away from the University of Michigan. I want him to be there for a long time, which immediately says that he said no to you already. So you don't just say, "Oh no, I want to keep this really good coach somewhere else," unless he's already said, "Nope, thumbs down." So.
I mean, he got so far this year with Michigan. Like, doesn't he want to go for the national championship? Like, I think he should give it a little more time. That's just my opinion.
He's probably gotten as far as he's going to get at Michigan. By the way, who should be on the Black Monday list, which I don't know yet if he will be on it, because he's still young. Brandon Staley of the Chargers. My God, fire that guy immediately. He could have been in the playoffs right now. Instead, he's calling timeouts and screwing his team over. That guy should be on the Black Monday list.
Okay, you took the words right out of my mouth. I know we didn't talk about this before the show even, and we can't spend a lot of time on it because we're going to talk national championship. But, Arky, I need to know your thoughts really quick on that Sunday night insane game between the Chargers and Raiders. Do you think that timeout cost the Chargers a playoff spot? Yes or no?
Yes! Yes, especially the fact that they had fought their way back into it. Like, they made some really bad decisions on 4th and 1 inside their own 20 early in the second half. They got down 15. They fought their way back in. They tied up with the field goal in overtime and matching the Raiders one. And then the Raiders were simply content to run one more, maybe rush play. See if they get the first down. Probably not. They weren't in a hurry, as you saw. They were running the play clock all the way down.
Yeah.
Instead, you call a timeout. You give the Raiders a chance to get one more big run, which they did, and they hit the field goal. Fire that man. That's awful. That is awful. That's fireable offense.
It was truly one of the craziest games I've ever witnessed. I will say, though, Derek Carr told Michelle Tafoya post-game that a tie was never the plan. The goal was to win the game. Staley said that he called the timeout to make sure they got their run defense in there, their premier run defense, with the intention of making the field goal as long as possible. And Raiders interim head coach said post-game that the conversation certainly was had on the sidelines about tying the game before the Chargers took that timeout. So we may never know. Raiders advance, and Chargers fans are not happy this morning. But
I'll say,
I don't know. It was crazy.
If you look at that last play, they had a safety playing linebacker. I don't know if they called timeout and got their best rush defense in. But yeah, if they're not going to fire him, then certainly going to bet against them the rest of my life.
I was going to say, so far he still has this job today, but obviously more to come with this coaching carousel. We will be on top of it, and we might even have more breaking news as the show goes on today. But with that said, we're going to get to our game of the day, which is, of course, the College Football National Championship. And then there were two. The only game we are looking at today because the CFB Championship deserves all of our attention, obviously. And we're going to have some fun here, breaking down these lines with a few prop bets sprinkled in. So here we go. The only thing we're missing right now is some confetti poppers. All right, number 1, Alabama taking on number 3, Georgia, which is weird to say since the Bulldogs were ranked first for most of the season. It all happens tonight live from Indianapolis, and we're going to break it down piece by piece, starting with that spread. But before we get to the spread, I'm going to hit you with a few fun facts as it pertains to these two teams. Are you ready, Arky?
Hit me.
The last time the Georgia Bulldogs have beat Nick Saban and company, excuse me, it was September 22nd, 2007, in a 26-23 final 14 years ago. They have played each other 7 times, in which Alabama has come out on top every time since that game. The last 2 times they played one another, which was October 17th, 2020, and this past SEC championship game on December 4th. The final score in both those games was 41-24. Kind of weird. These two schools have met a total of 71 times, with Alabama leading all time 42-25-4. Their very first meeting dates back all the way to 1895. And do you know who won that one, Arky?
I'm guessing Bama?
It was Georgia over the Crimson Tide. 36. Wow. I know.
I may have to change my pick.
They wouldn't meet again until 1901, where Georgia also got the win. The last time the Bulldogs won the Natty was in 1980, and Bama has won 7 since that, including just last year. And now back to 2022, where clearly things have changed, and tonight we will find out if Georgia will be able to finally get over the hump and take down their Goliath, that is Bama, for the first time in 7 meetings. As for the spread, as always, these lines are according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Georgia is the favorite, sitting at -2.5 right now. Bold of Vegas, very bold. Now, Arky, I know we briefly discussed the game last week where we both were team Nick Saban, but what will you be doing as far as the spread in tonight's national championship game?
It's easy for me. Like, it's Alabama +2.5, and I'm probably going to play the money line anyway. Alabama doesn't lose games like this to teams like Georgia. Now, Alabama has lost national championships before. They've lost them to really dynamic running quarterbacks. They've lost to Clemson and Ohio State in games like this in the college football playoff, but not to a guy like Stetson Bennett. And not to an offense that's built like Georgia's offense is built. And as strong as that defense has been for Georgia this entire season, we saw these two teams 2 games ago. Yep. We saw Georgia just like they did a year and a half or the year before when Georgia and Alabama played. We see Georgia take leads on Alabama. We just haven't seen them be able to close those games. And until you show me something different, I'm going team Nick Saban. Alabama, as an underdog, which is pretty rare under Nick Saban, when they're a single-digit underdog, I think it is, which they are right now, 2.5, just like they were 7 underdog in the SEC championship game. Alabama's won those games by double digits the 3 times that that's happened. Alabama just has everything going for it. They have the best offensive player in the country, the best defensive player in the country. They have the most strong and consistent coaching staff, top to bottom, in the country. You want to tell me Georgia's going to change up what they do in these last 11 days to be able to beat Alabama when they got crushed after going up 10-0 in the SEC title game? I don't buy it. Give me Alabama plus 2.5.
All right, I'm right there with you. If you couldn't tell by my sweater today, is this crimson, do you think? It's kind of like a wine color.
It's more crimson than it should be.
Okay. No bias at all here. So yes, I will also be taking Bama at plus 2.5 because until Nick Saban and his players, of course, prove me otherwise, especially against Georgia, I just can't go against them. And I wouldn't feel smart going against them either. We have to give credit where credit is due, though. These are two teams who have been highly efficient against the spread this season. They both covered in their semifinal games. Georgia is 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 bowl games / playoff games, while Alabama is 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 playoff games and 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 when going in as underdogs. How about that? Alabama has covered the spread their last 2 meetings with the Bulldogs. And here's the real kicker. The underdog in this Georgia versus Bama matchup is 7-1 in their last 8 meetings. So put that in your back pocket.
Well, let me piggyback this. The national championship games, this will be the 8th one. In the previous 7, the favorites are just 2-5 against the spread. So, yeah, everything's leaning toward don't take Georgia no matter what some of these quote-unquote experts are telling you.
Yes, so we've seen all we need to see and heard all we need to hear to know that we'll be taking Bama each at plus 2.5. That is our final answer. Moving right along. All right, looking at that total, the total for tonight's championship game is currently sitting at 52.5. Arky, what do you recommend for those betting the total tonight?
So this is a tricky one. Obviously, we've seen how these two teams played before, and Alabama and Georgia clearly covered in the SEC championship game. But if you want to look at the history of the national championship game, you would think with obviously a little bit of time to prepare for this game, which is 10 days compared to a normal week, that you would see a few more unders in the championship game, but that's actually not the case. In the championship games in the college football playoff era, the overs are 6-1. In fact, the last time an under hit was the first college football playoff championship, which was Florida State and Oregon, and that's only because that total was 72.5, and they still scored 62 in that game.
Crazy.
So, for some reason, the national championship game still gets a whole bunch of points. Now, sometimes it's a lot more one than the other, but usually you're getting the over here, and that's why I sort of lean this over. 52.5 is a tricky number to me because of how good both these two defenses are, but these two teams can kind of get loose on each other with some explosive playmakers who we'll talk about later in the show with some of our prop bets. And I think when you look at a really healthy Alabama team and a pretty healthy Georgia team, I think you're going to leave all things on the line for the national championship game itself. And I don't think you see a ton of defense if you can help it in this game. So you may not want to take the first quarter over, but I think in the game itself, the 52.5, I'm going to lean over.
Yeah, I think all signs point to this total going over. After all, it has hit in 4 of Bama's last 5 national championship games. And fun fact, in Kirby Smart and Nick Saban's 4 meetings, only one of those games went under this total of 52. The other 3 averaged around 64 points per game. So keep that in mind. And for what it's worth, in their last meeting, the total did hit 65. As far as the season, Georgia has seen this combined total in 6 of 14 games this season, while Bama has hit this number in 10 of their games. As far as the past title games, the total has exceeded this number of 52.5 points in 8 of the last 10, including the last 3 straight. So while I would love to be different and take the under, which I'm incredibly tempted to do a little bit, I just don't think that's a risk I'm willing to take tonight, considering the stats are so in favor of the over of 52.5. So right there with you. All right, we're going to move on to some prop bets, our prop closet passing yards. I know this doesn't matter for the totals or how they relate to the game tonight, but putting these two and their stats side by side, it's not even close. You've got sophomore and Heisman Trophy winner Bryce Young, who is 3rd in yards at over 4,500 and 2nd in touchdowns at 46, going up against Stetson Bennett, who is in his senior season ranked 57th in yards at over 2,600 and tied for 17th in touchdowns at 27. Obviously, his stats alone aren't what got the Bulldogs here, but this is an easy pick for me. All right, we've got Bryce Young, 303.5. Arky, will he go over or under this?
Yeah, I guess we'll start with Bryce first because you said it, and I like to bend at the will and the knee of Kayla Canero. So to me, this feels not like a layup, but a pretty good bet to go over. Bryce Young's averaging just over 9 yards per attempt this season. Now, if we continue that pace, which he did very well the last time these two met, not quite in the game against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati was playing a type of defense that I don't think Georgia's playing in this game. But they gave up a whole bunch of yards to Brian Robinson, over 200 yards to him, and Bryce Young only had to sort of dink and dunk and peck his way down the field, and they still won. Plus, I think they kept a lot of things in the vest because they knew they didn't have to against Cincinnati. Against Georgia, it's going to be a little bit of a different deal. Bryce Young, if he keeps up the just over 9 yards per attempt, he'll need to go 33 attempts, roughly, to sort of get us on pace for what he normally gets. That's happened 8 times this season, and including 5 of those, in the other 5 games where it didn't happen, most of those were giant blowouts against teams that were either FCS or way lower level FBS programs where he didn't have to play the entire game. So this game he is going to be in. I assume it's not going to be a 30-point blowout, so I assume he's going to be in there for a lot of this game. So I think we'll see the 33 attempts, and I think we'll see him go somewhere around 24 or 33 of this game, which is right around the numbers that he's averaging. And in that case, I love the over 303 and a half in this game because I think Bryce is going to have to air it out, and he's got really talented weapons on the outside. I think this is a number that I would love to go even higher, but if I can get a 303 and a half, even if you get it before it gets to like 309, 310, I still feel pretty good about it. So I'm going to go over 303 and a half.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I could have set that up better. We're starting with Bryce Young, 303 and a half, obviously. I feel confident taking the over with Bryce Young tonight. After all, he has hit this number in 8 of Bama's games this season. And he didn't just reach that number in those games, he blew it out of the water. Some of which included putting up 421 yards on Georgia in the SEC championship game and 559 yards on Arkansas 2 weekends before that. Young is averaging 336 a game, and with that, I will be taking the over for him tonight. There's really nothing else to say about that. Next up, we've got Stetson Bennett. He is sitting at 245 and a half yards. Arky, you're going to be taking the over-under with him.
Yeah, I am. I am going to be taking the over 245 and a half for this, too. I'm expecting, as you can tell, a lot of offense to be able to happen in this game. And again, as much as you want to be sort of conservative with Stetson Bennett, you can't in this game. We've seen him have some explosive plays against Michigan. We've seen it happen throughout the majority of this season, usually in much smaller doses because they get big on a team and they don't have to go anything but boa constrictor strangle mode on a team. I don't think that's the case tonight. I think he's going to need as much airplay as possible to be able to compete with and to beat Alabama. Now, I know he's only averaging like 188 yards a game this season, but he's gone over this 245 and a half in 3 straight games. And those have been 3 of the most important games he's played this season. So for me, this is pretty simple. To stay in this game, he's going to need a bunch of passing yards. And even if they get behind 7, 10, 14 points, you're going to need him to try to catch up, too. I think you're going to get garbage yards. I think you're going to try to stay in the game yard. I think you're going to get early yards. So I look for Stetson Bennett to end around 270, 280 yards tonight because I think he's going to be flinging it around more than we're expecting.
Okay. Well, in their last meeting, Bennett did throw for 340, but I think the national championship stage changes that. I think the nerves will kick in a bit. He also threw for 313 in the semifinal game and is averaging around 253 a game, but he only hit or exceeded this number of 245 and a half yards passing in 6 of their 12 games he started this season. We also know that this team is someone who likes to keep the ground on the ball a lot more than Bama and isn't as pass happy as the Crimson Tide. So I don't know. I think I'm going to ride the under with him tonight. I need to be different from you somehow in some way today. So I'm going to take the under for Stinson tonight.
Yeah, and you don't have to. Like, you're trying to make money, too. But I just sort of see this as a game where we're going to look for more and more and more offense. And you're not going to get it, I think, as much from guys like James Cook and Zamir White. And, you know, I just don't think you're going to be able to beat Alabama running the ball a lot. I think Stetson Bennett's going to have to win you some third downs. And I don't know if he's going to be able to. I mean, I think there's a real good chance that Georgia can win this game. It's not impossible. Eventually, Kirby Smart's due for a championship at some point. I just don't know when that's going to be. But Stetson Bennett's going to have to be the guy to do it. I don't trust him to do it, but I do trust him to keep trying and keep going over and over and over again to get you over the 245.5.
Yeah, and if there's a risk I'm willing to take tonight, it's this prop right here. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to our next prop closet. Anytime touchdown score. Arky, who are you picking for this one?
Oh, my big man Brock Bowers, baby.
Woo!
Now listen, it's not a great return on investment. I think he's minus 130 or 135 for FanDuel right now. But again, I'm trying to make money, right? And if I'm looking for a target that Stetson Bennett loves, why not pick the big, giant, fat tight end? Now, he's not fat. He's just a big, giant dude. And he is phenomenal. This freshman is huge. He had 10 catches, 139 yards, and a touchdown against Alabama in the SEC championship game. He has to be a factor for Georgia to be able to win this game. There's no two ways about it. The bottom line is, if he's not, you're going to have a long, long night for Stetson Bennett and the Bulldogs. And I know Alabama's probably going to try to key in and take him away, but who's going to patrol the middle of the field if you're Alabama against him? It's not going to be Will Anderson for the most part. Will Anderson's going to try to put Stetson Bennett on his ass for the most part tonight. So I like Brock Bowers in this game to score a touchdown at any point. It's also the guy that has the most targets. He has 22 more catches and 7 more touchdowns than anybody else on the team. It's clear Stetson Bennett's guy is Brock Bowers, big number one. And if you're wanting to get a guy for Georgia that's most likely to score a touchdown at any point, for me, it's clear. You go with the giant freshman in Brock Bowers.
Okay. Can you guess who I'm going to pick?
I can't.
Well, hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, of course, I'm going with my guy and Alabama's very own Jameson Williams, who's at minus 160 to have a touchdown on the night. So far this season, the junior has had 75 receptions for 1,507 yards and 15 touchdowns. He's had at least one touchdown in 9 of Bama's 14 games, which, yes, means in 5 games he went quiet, including the Crimson Tide's last game against Cincinnati. But when he's hot, he is hot. In those 5 games where he didn't find the end zone, he did put up over 60 yards in 4 of them. Williams has also had 4 games with more than 1 touchdown, including 3 against Arkansas and New Mexico State. And most importantly, in their last meeting with Georgia, he found the end zone not once, but twice. So if he could do that again tonight, that would really be appreciated. Thanks, Jameson. But yes, I'm going with Jameson here for a touchdown. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think Jameson's a good bet. There's a lot of juice on it at minus 160 to be able to get it to pay off for you. But he's the guy that's clearly it's due again. He's a big explosive playmaker for the Crimson Tide. But Alabama's loaded with playmakers. That's why this was such a tough bet for me to go for Alabama, because there's so many guys that could score, and there's a good chance all of them score tonight. That the most likely for Georgia, which is the one I was most interested in, was going to be someone like Brock Bowers. But Jameson Williams probably will score a touchdown tonight.
That's true. You've got a lot to choose from with Bama, less to choose from with Georgia, so you're probably playing the better bet there. But
I didn't even think about the Missouri connection. I should have known better. I should have looked where these guys are from.
He's my people.
Yeah. Well, is he more your people or more Ohio State's people or more Alabama's people?
That's true. Why didn't he pick Mizzou?
He's a lot of people's people. Well, I think you know why.
Rude. Got to keep these guys in state. All right. Our final prop of the day, player rushing yards. Who are you looking at for this one, Arky?
For me, I'm going with my man B-Rob, Brian Robinson for the University of Alabama. He is at 65.5 rushing yards tonight. And here's the thing I do with player yards props. Get it at the number I'm telling you. Maybe if it's a little bit lower, if I'm going over, or a little high, if it's higher, go under. I'm going over 65.5 yards. The reason I tell you to get the number now is because lots of change. You'll see this number go from 65 to 68 to 70 to maybe 54 some places. You just don't know what some of these books are going to be able to give you this number at. But if you can get it 65.5, which is what I got it at, or lower, I got it on FanDuel, by the way, then I love this matchup. Now, it is true, last time against Georgia, he went for 16 carries and 55 yards. But the man was injured. The man got hurt later in the Auburn game, a lower leg injury. He was limping going into that game against Georgia for the SEC championship game. But if you watched him against Cincinnati, once he had a few weeks to rest, He looked good, Kayla. He looked good. Over 200 rushing yards, 204, I think, on the ground for that night. So if you're going to give me 65.5, I really think I like my odds here. I love Brian Robinson as a running back. He's been there a while. He's a big, tough runner. He's good at finding the alleys and the lanes to cut through. I think it's going to be difficult for Georgia to be able to key in on all the outside talent, and for Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders, the other running back too for Alabama. That I think you're going to see Brian Robinson. He may get over 65.5 yards on like 2 total carries. Like he is an explosive enough guy that I think he could get a couple of 30, 40-yard carries in this game, just because Georgia will be so keyed on one side or the other. I'm not sure which side it's going to be, but I don't hate this pick. I love this pick a lot. So if you get it at 65.5 or below, yes. If it starts getting up to 70, 62, wherever, or 72, wherever you find it, lay off. But 65.5 or below, take the over. Love it. I love B-Rob tonight.
Okay. I like that for you too. I'm looking at Georgia's Zamir White and hoping he can put up over 50.5 rushing yards tonight in Indy, and I feel confident he can. He's gone over this number in 8 of Georgia's games this season. His season high was in Week 9 against Florida with 105 rushing yards, and his season low was against who, Arky? Can you guess?
Was it against Alabama?
No.
Okay.
It was against Mizzou of all teams at just 14.
My God, I keep forgetting it. It all comes back to Como.
It all comes back to Como. He only had 14 rushing yards against Mizzou. What can I say? Our defense is really good.
Yeah, what a disaster.
While he didn't get close to that number in their last meeting with Alabama with 27 rushing yards, he did put up 54 on the ground against Michigan in the Bulldogs semifinal game. After all, he does lead UGA with 147 carries for 772 yards and 10 touchdowns on the season. So, since Georgia likes to keep the ball on the ground and since they will be playing on college football's biggest stage, I'm expecting a big night out of my guy of over 50.5 yards on the ground. Let's go, Zamir.
I think they're going to have it for Stetson Bennett and company to have enough time to be able to throw for Zamir White and company to have a decent game running. They don't have to go nuts. They just have to have a pretty decent night. So if Zamir White goes for over 50.5, there's a chance Georgia could keep themselves in this game all the way to the very end.
All right. And that's going to do it for our prop bets. We're going to get to our recap. But before we do, breaking news. Producer Lauren just said that GM Dave Gettleman announced his retirement with the Giants. So, more breaking news all day long.
I'm a little shocked because the Giants have 0 professional football players on that team. I don't know. They were rough yesterday. Did you see them quarterback sneaking on 3rd and 9?
I didn't, but that's amazing.
Joe Judge still has a job for some reason, but okay.
Probably a good time to retire.
Probably for him, yeah.
All right, let's take a look at our recap of the day. It, of course, is all things national championship, starting with that spread. Arky and I are both taking Alabama at +2.5. We both feel pretty confident about that. We'll see what happens. As far as the total, we're both taking the over of 52.5. In our prop closet in passing yards, Arky is taking Bryce Young over and Stetson Bennett over. I am taking Bryce Young over and Stetson Bennett under. As far as the anytime touchdown score, Arky's going with Brock Bowers at sitting at -135, and I'm taking Jamison Williams sitting at -160. And for player rushing yards, Arky's going with Brian Robinson over 65.5. I'm going with Zamir White of over 50.5. And that's going to do it for us today. Arky, what's your score prediction? Final score prediction for this national championship game.
This is the game I'm hoping ends in a tie. So 30-30, maybe.
This is the one, the natty.
Yeah, I'm the guy in the crowd that holds the sign that says, I just hope both teams tie.
I just hope everyone has fun. Seriously? Yeah. You're not going to give a prediction?
No, I don't like. I hate both of these two teams. But for
right.
My money, I think this ends up being like a 31-20 type Alabama win.
Okay.
Or 41-20. Sorry, 41-20.
40.
No, I think
Keeping
Alabama has got a good chance to beat the brakes off of them.
Okay, I'm going 35-28 Bama.
All right.
We shall see what happens. We hope you all enjoy the national championship game tonight. That is Arky Shay. I am Kayla Canarum. As always, don't forget to make your picks at fanduel.com/outkick. May all of your bets hit tonight for the national championship game. And if they don't, hopefully there's a cold beverage nearby. We will see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.